Bitcoin is absolutely ripping. Do we need to watch out for a washout to the downside? I know what I'm doing because I've been stacking into this market for the last 2-3 years, especially the last 6 months. It's time. What we've been waiting on. This is what we're here for. We got Matthew Hyland that's going to be on the stream today. We're going to be breaking this down, but you know what we got to do? Every single one of you that's tuned in right now, head over to @Kellam or @Academy BitLab. Retweet this live stream that is going on right now so we can get this out to as many people as possible. Let's make sure we can let them know what the hell is going on from some of the most balanced minds in crypto, especially Mr. Matthew Hyland, who is an absolute legend in this space. Very excited to have him on today on a day where we are breaking records, breaking history. And while we're doing that, let's get some jams playing because Bitcoin is pumping. So let's ride.
Altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump. Altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump. Altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pump. Altcoins, pump. I've been preparing for this. Can't nobody tell me nothing. SEC and its policies rely on whatever Gary thinks. Bitcoin's a flight to quality. I heard that from Larry Fink. Every hour losing purchasing power on food and shelter. It's not our fault. Blame the coal. It's the political cowards. When it comes to gas, our purchasing power just got cut in half. I sit back and laugh, open my bag, fill it with stacks and sats. Bitcoin, pumping. Altcoins, pumping. I've been preparing for this. Can't tell me nothing.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a flight to quality. We are hearing from clients around the world.
Bitcoin, pumping. Altcoins, pumping. I've been preparing for this.
And I believe crypto will play that type of role as
Bitcoin, pumping. Altcoin, pumping.
We are hearing from clients around the world.
Can't nobody tell me nothing.
Crypto, depending on how you think about it. And I believe crypto will play that type of role as a
Can't nobody tell me nothing. Bitcoin, pumping.
We are hearing from clients around the world.
The market is ripping. Is your portfolio green? Because if your portfolio is not green today, there's something that you are doing wrong in this market. Everybody hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ding the bell. This feels good. We all feel vindicated because this is what we've been projecting for months. If you've been here on BitLab, you know what's up. Let's get into it. Let's go. As you can see, Bitcoin has got the astronaut because it is going to the moon right now, and so is your portfolio, and the parabolic move is not even really started yet. This is just getting underway. It's my estimation that people are starting to front run this idea of nation states having to add Bitcoin to their balance sheets. Now, why would that be? Because we have that Bitcoin national Bitcoin reserve that is very likely, very high likelihood to get pushed through in the first 100 days. And that puts every other nation on notice as well. But is that just it? Do we need to watch for a pullback with what's going on here? Everybody, welcome to the stream. My name's Kellam here with BitLab Academy. Thank you to all of our channel partners you see right here on the screen. We're going to break things down here with Matthew Hyland. We're going to be looking at what's going on. But before we dive in there, let's just look at this. From this yellow line right here, we could see price action from November 4th, November 5th has just been ripping to the upside. Now, this is incredible. The trend is your friend to the end, but we also have a massive CME gap directly below where we're at. If you can see that right here on this chart that Joshua Jake posted, this is that zone. And I shared it in the BitLab Discord as well, about just under $78,000 up to about $81,000. Is this something that's just going to run away? Do we need to be prepared? In addition to that, we also see IBIT, 211 days. You see this? Has hit $40 billion asset mark a mere 2 weeks after hitting $30 billion. That's an extra $10 billion, over basically 30% more inflows of that purchasing, and a record 211 days, annihilating previous record of 1,253 days held by IEMG. It's now a top 1% of all ETFs by asset, and at 10 months old, it is bigger than all 2,800 ETFs launched in the past 10 years. This, while we're looking at Bitcoin price, this is important because it represents that sort of institutional retail flow that's outside of crypto. And this is all before fair value accounting comes on. So my question to you right now, we got 502 people in the room. My question to you right now is, have you hit the like button? Have you hit that subscribe button and ding the bell? We got a member stream this afternoon at 2:15 p.m. Eastern time. If you're a BitLab member here on YouTube, you'll get access. If you're a member over there on BitLab Academy, you'll get access. But most importantly, we got to talk about the price action right now because we got our boy in the wings. Let me go ahead and make sure I get him assigned 1 and assigned 4 to pull him up here. We got to talk about what's going on. Mr. Matthew Hyland, 93,000, over 93,000 today. What's going on, man? Is this where you thought it'd be a week after the election?
We discussed this like as a possibility. I mean, it's crazy though, just to think a week ago or 2 weeks ago, Bitcoin was only around 63K approximately, I believe. And now it's at almost 93K. So it's a nice 50% move. But if you've been following me, and if you've been watching all the streams that I've been on with Kellam, I discussed repeatedly over and over and over, basically since July, that I thought after the election would be when we would start to see the fireworks start for Bitcoin. And we've essentially seen that. We end up breaking all-time highs on election night. And now we're already, at that point, it was around 75K. It's now sitting at almost 92K. And Bitcoin is really just flying at this point. It's in a blue sky breakout. There's no resistance overhead because it's never traded above these prices ever. So the only thing really that we have to use is the Fibonacci's. And the first target I had posted on my Twitter account the other day would be 88K. This was when we were down here around 81K. And we almost hit that, I think, the same day. It just went straight there. And now the next target really for Bitcoin sits at the 2.618 Fibonacci level, which is around 114,000. So that's really the next target other than 100K. Obviously, I think 100K will be a huge psychological area. But it'll be interesting to see how it interacts with that. Will it cause some selling from people who've been holding Bitcoin, or will it kind of spark just FOMO from people as they hear that Bitcoin is now broken $100,000 or has touched $100,000?
No, I mean, I completely agree. And all this is at the same time where we're starting to see a pretty big expansion here. This is the ETF flow rate. You can see it kind of constricted in, basically into September. And now it's just been expanding with these massive flows coming in. And then this is at the same time, we're actually seeing a little bit of a reduction in global liquidity. And of course, we want to talk about Bitcoin price action, right? But everybody out there, I want you to realize, to understand where Bitcoin price action may be going, we also need to look at the context. And the fact that the Bitcoin price is pushing right now while we're getting a small contraction on global liquidity is actually incredibly bullish to me, because we know that we have the $1.4 billion, is it billion or trillion? Well, it's a huge number of money coming in from China here in the matter. I think it's already should be starting here in the matter of days. But then we also have that $16 billion coming from FTX in a matter of weeks. And then in addition to that, I mean, it just seems like the bullishness it's like a freight train right now. So what are we to make of this? Do you expect that we might get, there's a huge amount of over leveragedness. In fact, Ki-Young Ju, the CEO of CryptoQuant, actually shared this. Estimated futures leverage ratio for USDT pairs across all exchanges, basically hitting all-time highs. And we do have that CME gap below us. Do you expect that we will likely get a washout to kind of shock people, or is this just something that's going to run away?
I think I'm going to lean more toward this is going to more or less run away. I mean, it's already doing that, essentially getting through this Fibonacci level. But if you go back to even 2020, once when it broke that all-time high, it essentially went from $20,000 all the way up to around 40,000 or 42,000 right off the bat. So it made 100% move without any significant pullbacks. And I'm sure back then, I mean, you'd have to look, but I'm sure there was some CME gap back then at some point, but it got filled later on. So yeah, Bitcoin right now is just very, very strong. It's absolutely moving right now. And there's a lot of demand. And I think a lot of this was just really pent up because of the uncertainty of the election results. And once when we knew that Bitcoin was going to be added to the reserves, they're going to be making a strategic reserve now for Bitcoin, which is good in general because that means that Bitcoin will now be something held long term by the United States. But it also means that every other country in the world essentially will have to consider it. A lot of countries that basically, or pretty much every country, kind of follows and watches what the United States does. So if they see the United States, adding Bitcoin to a strategic reserve, they're going to have to start to look into that, and they'll have to buy Bitcoin on the open market. Also, shout out to Germany. Germany was selling their Bitcoin
At a
way back
low.
here in August, just 3 months ago for $49,000. So shout out to them because if they were selling it now, that would be twice as much selling pressure we'd have to absorb because the price of Bitcoin is almost up 100% since then. So yeah, thank you, Germany, for unloading that Bitcoin. Also, the United States now with Trump winning, there was threats by politicians that they want to sell the Bitcoin that was going to be going into the reserve, which I believe was 160,000 or 125,000 Bitcoin, which is a significant amount. That's like almost twice as much. It's more than twice as much as Germany sold. Uh, if that is the number, I know it's a lot more than what Germany sold. Germany sold around 50,000 Bitcoin. So yeah, the United States won't be doing that. So that was also then confirmed, obviously, with Trump winning, that they're not going to sell the Bitcoin. There was rumors that they were going to do that for in September and October, and then now that's not going to happen. They're not going to sell that Bitcoin that's going into the strategic reserve. So that was a bullish outcome of the election, as well as the strategic reserve. And then, of course, what a lot of people are interested in is the SEC changes as well. We're going to see a complete change in the SEC. Gary Gensler obviously will be gone in about 65 days. So I think between now and then, and I've been saying this really so many months now, that if we got that change at the SEC, it would be huge for everything else, well, including Bitcoin, but a lot of the alts. The whole space essentially became uninvestable because of the SEC and because of their just continuous attack on crypto, just going after every coin company, venture capital firm, NFT stuff, basically everything that they could reach and get their hands on, they essentially went after. So it held this space back for the past few years, but that's going to now change when um, we see Gary Gensler get removed on January 20th, I believe it is, or January 21st. So I do think actually right now retail has an opportunity to kind of front run that. We know it's going to happen, but if you're like, let's say, an institution or a venture capital firm, you still have to deal with Gary Gensler, unfortunately, from now until January 21st or January 20th. And you would think logically he would not, file more lawsuits at this point and go after venture capital firms and more coins and tokens. But it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the risk of that happening at this point. If you're a venture capital firm or if you're like some token, whatever, it's not worth getting wrapped up in the courts, wrapped up in the legal fees and whatnot. You're better off at this point just waiting. So retail can really essentially front run the institutions and the venture capital firms that will probably be entering the space when the changes are made. So there's about 65 days for that to happen. So there's a chance for that going forward.
Yeah, I mean, and Miles Deutscher posted this earlier today. This shows the speculation index, the percentage of altcoins with the 90-day return greater than Bitcoin, basically showing, and we can see this in the Bitcoin dominance. Bitcoin dominance ticked up to 61% today, and that's in some ways to be expected with the sort of focus right now on how much capital flow is about to come into Bitcoin. But it also represents that we still have opportunity right now in altcoins. I mean, you can see that this gets all the way up into the 90s. We have not even really begun to move yet on this. So anybody that's holding altcoins going, why aren't they moving yet? There's not going to be an altcoin season this cycle. Yes, there is absolutely going to be an altcoin season this cycle. I heavily think that. However, we have to understand that the capital focus right now is on Bitcoin. And so that's okay. That means we still have opportunity presenting in altcoins. We have a lot of room to grow. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Maybe we even have to wait predominantly or primarily all the way through into January, but that means we still have time to stack on those. But I wouldn't be completely over leveraged on altcoins right now because of where the capital focus is in the market. Do you have anything outside Bitcoin that you're watching? Because I do see the Bitcoin was falling a bit today, which makes sense because Bitcoin's kind of starting the move. But what else are you looking at?
Well, really, the Bitcoin dominance, that's like the main question, or the main thing that a lot of people are interested in. If you go back to last cycle, right, it came back up to the 0.618 retrace, and it's doing this now, and then it poked slightly above this. And this occurred 18 days. Let me remove these fibs at this point. This occurred 18 days after Bitcoin had broken the all-time high of 20,000 back in 2020. So if you go back here, this was, I believe it was December 16th. So this is when Bitcoin broke $20,000. And then about 18 days later, on January 2nd, it peaked, it topped. That was the Bitcoin dominance top. So it's really just playing out kind of similar once again, where we're about 7 days. So it's been 7 days since the election, or about 8 days. So it's been about 8 days since Bitcoin broke the all-time high. So I'd say probably within, if it follows what it did last cycle, probably within 10 days or 2 weeks, we're probably going to see the top at some point for the dominance. I do think the $100,000 psychological level will get a lot of interest back into this space, and it's just going to bring a lot back. I think Doge. Let me see if I can find Doge.
Well, I mean, there's been some pretty big altcoin stories today with Pepe getting listed kind of across the major exchanges. Solana, Cardano, and Pepe getting relisted on Robinhood. There's been a lot
Pepe,
of movement.
I didn't even see that. I didn't even actually see that Pepe got listed on Robinhood. I assumed that
Yeah,
something there. I
yeah,
knew it
but it
was
also
up a
got listed
lot.
on Coinbase and Binance.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it
Interesting.
jumped like 40% today. And Peanut, our Lord and not Lord and Savior, but the savior of the election, Peanut, who sacrificed his life.
Yeah.
That coin is up like astronomically. And I'm not a big meme coin trader, but you can't argue with the amount of capital that's going into. It's like it has its own cycle. This go round. That narrative memes.
Yeah, the memes are still the strongest, it appears. Um, but I would say that at some point, I do think other sectors will start to catch a bit. I think really the reason why the memes have been the strongest is because they were the ones that really weren't targeted by the SEC. The meme coins never got targeted because, and it's actually interesting. They went after a lot of the I guess more normal coins you can call them. But the memes for the most part never got targeted, and some of them couldn't be targeted. Like Doge is clearly not a security by any means, but some of these meme coins could have been labeled securities with the insiders and whatnot. But regardless, yeah, the memes kind of have been catching a bit and still seem to be the strongest. Let me go to Ethereum. Let's see what Ethereum looks like. So Ethereum got up to this resistance area. Let me go to the weekly time frame. This is pretty much it. When it gets through here, it'll probably push through this up to this $4,000 high that we saw earlier in the year. And then after that, there's really not much resistance. In the last cycle, once when Bitcoin broke all-time highs, Ethereum got up to the all-time highs within a month. So I think within a few weeks, Ethereum is probably going to be trading above 4,900 and probably breaking to new all-time highs. I think that will probably happen within a month, actually, which will probably it'll catch a lot of people off guard because the sentiment on Ethereum has been super down, and probably rightfully so. It has been underperforming, but it did the same thing last cycle, and then it ended up really just running away from pretty much everything, especially against Bitcoin. It outperformed Bitcoin in almost I think it went up, I believe, double if we look at ETH BTC. Yeah, back here, this was so this is when Bitcoin broke the all-time high. sentiment on Ethereum wasn't that great, and then it just completely ripped. It actually crashed. I think this was when Bitcoin reached its all-time high. ETH BTC crashed, and a lot of people were kind of celebrating, saying ETH was dead at that point, and then from there, ETH just completely it went up like almost 4x against Bitcoin. So I think it'll end up doing something similar once again, where it's just going to outperform Bitcoin. I don't know if it'll make new highs or if it will just get back up to the highs, but I think at some point Ethereum will outperform Bitcoin. I know the ETF flows too were super high. I think it was last Friday it had its highest, or maybe on Monday it had its highest inflows so far. So I think that will start to catch up. And I think the thing that people don't see really with Ethereum right now is that Ethereum is what most stuff is going to be built on. So when the VCs and the institutions and you start to see like companies actually build stuff, it's going to be on Ethereum for the most part. It might be on some other layer one chains, but Ethereum is essentially the chain to do it on. It's the most secure, really. So it gives up. It gives up. It has more security, but it gives up the speed and the prices. Because if you go to other chains, they're cheaper, but they don't have as much security as Ethereum. So if you're building something for the real world, you're going to want it on the most secure chain, blockchain to do that. So I think Ethereum will eventually catch up. If we go over to, let's go over to Total 3. So Total 3 broke out of this resistance. This is alt except Bitcoin and Ethereum. So Total 3 is looking very nice. If we go to others also looks nice. I had made a tweet last night basically saying to lock in. It was basically at the bottom right here. Let me see if I can find it actually. I was saying to lock in right there because it was retesting a breakout of an inverse head and shoulders pattern right here. So this is a clear inverse head and shoulders pattern that it had been in essentially since June when it broke down and then had the bottom in August. It ended up breaking out and then retesting it. So that's what you want to see on an inverse head and shoulders pattern. You want to see a breakout and a retest. So this is what will really start for alt. So this was posted down here at the bottom, literally at the resistance. So from here, I think alts are going to start to move once when Bitcoin decides to chill. Usually what happens in bull cycles is when Bitcoin goes up, you see it usually outperforms alts and stuff. But when it starts to chop, like let's say we get something like this at some point. Let me see if I could just draw this. Let's say we get to like 100K. Oops, that's really not quite enough. Let's say we get to like 100K and then kind of find resistance there. This thing does not like me. Get to like 100K, maybe then start to chop. This would be when alts would really start to like, if we got that for a few days or weeks and then moved up afterwards for Bitcoin, if we got something like this, alts would absolutely fly during this period. This is usually when it would happen. So and it would be also good for Bitcoin if it consolidated the gains rather than just, get up to 100K and then come back down. Like something like that wouldn't be probably the best. And it would also, you'd have to like question what Bitcoin is doing at that point. Maybe that was the top, but whenever you see a consolidation after a move up, that means it has a lot of strength and it wants to continue higher at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so excited with everything happening right now because it's not like price is moving up in a vacuum. Even with the bull flag you just drew out there as an example, it's not like, oh, it's pushing up because this is where we're at in the cycle. It's like, okay, this is where we're at in the cycle. But in addition, I mean, I even pulled this up earlier. Where's it at? Let me see right here. Looking at this chart right here, this is measured since day's bottom. And we are literally, this is the current cycle. See that pink line? We're literally exactly hitting new highs right when we did in the last cycle. I mean, it's incredible with where we're at as measured from cycle low. And of course, now we can explain all the bullishness coming in, but arguably this is kind of how it happens with the psychology of every market. You get a lot of just cascading bearishness in bear markets. And then the cycle gets a little bit of a strong footing. We build the strong base as we have. And then now all the other things that can manifest in the bullish reality are starting to, whether it be the 200,000 Bitcoin purchase per year for the next 5 years for the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, 42 billion coming from MicroStrategy over the next 3 years, 16 billion coming from FTX, increased flows from ETFs, fair value accounting coming, allowing institutions to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheets, Microsoft voting on whether or not they're going to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet. And then would you think that, for instance, the strategic Bitcoin reserve for the U.S., would you think that that would be a net positive or irrelevant in terms of shareholders voting for Microsoft, the Microsoft shareholders voting? Some people argue that it's probably not going to happen because of the poly markets bet showing that it's not happening. But I'm like, hey, man, I think the world is on notice right now. What the hell is your Bitcoin strategy?
What are the poly market odds right now for that?
I don't know. Let me pull those up. I just noticed the other day that they were still quite low, but it seemed, man, it feels.
I wonder why. Yeah, I would think it wouldn't be, because I would think they would see what MicroStrategy is doing, and I think they would want to join in. And also Tesla owns Bitcoin as well. They haven't bought any anymore, but you would think
13% chance, yes.
That's interesting. I don't agree with those odds, and I don't. What's the liquidity on that? 600. Oh, you know what? It's only $602,000 of volume.
Yeah,
at the top. So, like, if I was a betting person, I would take that bet at 13% chance. I actually want to. I know someone who does, so I'm gonna have to send that to him. But
yeah, I mean, it's just like you see others just, I mean, altcoins looking solid, breaking out of this, range, kind of coming right into a level that we have mapped out here on the charts, guys, and having, a little bit of a pullback into this zone. Everything feels set up. I mean, look at this. I've had this drawn since this point right here, March of this year. And this is exactly where it's being held right now. Once this starts moving, excellent. Also, Link looking incredible. So many altcoins too had this fake washout little bear trap into a zone that acted as a spring and just launched. Avalanche also fake out to the downside, then launch. Solana, no fake out at all. Just nice push up into resistance, come back down, find support, basically confirming this breakout, and then just launching up here, testing past these highs here. I think Solana is going to do excellent, but Ondo also fake out to the downside, coming back up, pushing into where the zone over here, where all of this chop happened. And it's just waiting for the signal to take that next leg up. Near protocol, fake out to the downside, then boom. And for anybody that's watching BitLab, or maybe this is your first time watching, I was talking about this when the price was over here. Watch for a fake out move to the downside to flush liquidity to only then launch up. And we've been seeing this across the board. BitTensor, nice move up, signaling likely move down with this rising wedge. And then we have the falling channel signaling the next move likely up. And we've gotten that. So, this market is, I don't want to say being predictable, because I don't want to be arrogant, because this is when the market wrecks you. But the market has been providing us with so many signs over the last, 3 to 5 months of this growing base of bullishness for that next move to the upside.
Yeah, it's basically been exactly the same too. Like you said, like everything, it's just crazy how it all comes back at the end. Everything is almost exactly the same, with Bitcoin breaking out in Q4 of this year the same way it broke out in Q4 of 2020. Ethereum basically was down, actually even less, but now it's starting to move up the same way it did in Q4 2020. Doge, let me go to Doge. Doge is doing the same thing as well. I had pointed this out, I think, on Twitter.
And Doge is in a unique position, being a legacy altcoin, but also a part of the meme coin narrative, the sort of original meme coin. But then the size of the community and awareness around Doge is incredible. But then the speculation that it may be included in the X payments, but then also the fact that now it's official. We have the Department of Government Efficiency so far as that they also have Doge.gov. So there's a lot of just narrative push around this as well. It's going to be very interesting to see how Doge plays out this cycle.
It's a really incredible chart too. If you just look at this, it's gone through 3 cycles, or this is like the 3rd cycle. Um, and usually, right, on the initial pump that it gets when it starts, if you look at the timing of this too, this is actually way back. So this is back in December of 2016 or January 2017, it started to move up. And then back here, this is November of 2020, right on time. And I was pointing this out too, on Twitter, that this is right on time. This is 4 years ago. October, November of 2020 is when Doge started. And then you look right here, what is it? November of 2020. 4 years later, Doge is starting once again. And the first move, in all three pumps took it past the all-time high. So I'll just mark this up. That was the all-time high then. That was the all-time high. So it reached on this initial pump right here back in early 2017. It got to all-time highs. Then in 2020, 2021, this is early 2021, initial pump got to all-time highs. This time, it's probably going to go to all-time highs before it consolidates like it did here and did here. And then I'll have its second big pump, and that'll be the top. And Doge is just incredible because it's one of the few, if not, I think it's the only chart. Let me see if I could just pull this up. It's one of the only charts, I believe, as far as I'm aware, that's gone through 3 cycles now, where it has. Well, it's been around since 2014. But if this makes new highs against Bitcoin, it would be incredible. It's There's no other, most charts against Bitcoin go up, and then they have their initial run, and then they never get back to all-time highs ever again. I don't think any
Against
really
Bitcoin,
coin
yeah.
ever. Yeah, I don't think any coin after its first cycle has ever gotten back up to all-time highs against Bitcoin. And Doge is the only one that's ever done it. It did it last cycle, but now if it does it again, like Doge, in my opinion, if it does this, let's say if it does break, then Doge will be a permanent. It'll just be a permanent coin in crypto forever. Like, in my opinion, it's going to be there. Like with Bitcoin and probably Ethereum, it'll be there for decades. In my opinion, it just has an incredible strength against Bitcoin. There's nothing else out there that has it. Even Ethereum last cycle did not get back up to the highs. It made a lower high, if you recall, on the ETH BTC ratio. Maybe Solana could do it this time. It's possible. If I look at Sol BTC.
Yeah. As you're pulling that up, also just want to shout out everybody. If you're tuned in, we just had a couple hundred people flow in here on YouTube. We got about 1,700 people in the room here between Twitter and YouTube. Shout out to everybody here. Make sure you're following Matthew Hyland here at Matthew Hyland _. And then, of course, make sure you're following me right here at Kelly Kellam at KELOY KELLAM. We're, obviously I'm here on a daily basis. Matthew is so kind to pop in here pretty regularly, and make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribing, digging the bell. We got a lot of stuff to cover because these markets this is what it's all about right now, man.
So this is Solana Bitcoin right here on the left side. And maybe this has a chance to get up to the all-time highs against Bitcoin. But I don't know. In my opinion, it's an interesting chart because when you look at Ethereum Bitcoin, doesn't it look pretty much similar up until this point? Where
Yeah.
this is last cycle for Ethereum, where it got high. It definitely outperformed Bitcoin, but it never actually got back to that high. So I want to see if we'll find out if Solana can pull this off or not, or if it's going to follow the Ethereum path where it makes a lower high, which would mean that the high is already in for Solana against Bitcoin, and then it proceeds to go downward. And this doesn't mean that it would go down in USD price. It will probably go up in USD price. It would just mean that it doesn't continue to outperform Bitcoin. But it's in a clear pennant, and objectively, right, this is a move up against Bitcoin, a consolidation. So logically, this favors a continuation. So it's currently in a spot where it's favorable to at least reach this high, but we'll see what ends up happening. It'll be interesting. I wonder, I had another chart somewhere if I can find it. Oh, this one right here. This is another interesting one.
Am I eating
is
pizza?
also,
Hell yeah, I'm eating pizza. It's Bitcoin ripping day.
this is another chart that's interesting too. So this is others dominance, right? So we have Bitcoin dominance. You could look at like Ethereum dominance or Solana dominance. This is others dominance. So this is the alts outside the top 10. And it kind of goes through an interesting pattern every single time, where it has the local bottom or the cycle bottom, then it pushes up, and then it comes back down and it crashes into December. This was December of 2016, found its bottom right here, and then from there it started to go up.
That's like the initial rippage of Bitcoin to the upside, while the dominance.
Yeah, it doesn't mean alts are going to crash. It just means that the Bitcoin dominance is surging, and that's when it found its bottom. And then you go to 2020, December 2020, same exact thing. It found its bottom once again. It played the same structure, had the initial bottom, had its move up, then rolled over, and we're seeing it once again. We had the bottom back here in June of 2023, moved up, had the initial move up, and then has since rolled over. But you would think if this wants to play out like it has the prior two times, that this would probably find a bottom before the end of the year, maybe sooner, and then start to move up against everything else. So everything is just playing out pretty much exactly the same across the board. If you look at the highs too, let's just take the highs, right? This was around 12% dominance for others. Back in 2017, this was around 20 or 19% dominance. So even if it got back up just to the local high, that would mean it would have to go up. It'd have to go up 100% against the space. So think about like how Bitcoin, if Bitcoin dominance were to go up 100%, it would be massive. So think about that for alts. If the others dominance goes up 100%, be massive. And maybe it is in like a kind of channel. So maybe it even gets a little bit higher. Maybe it gets up to, when was this high? This was January of 2022. So let's go out to January of 2026. That'd be about 29%.
I would also argue, for the potential of the dominance of altcoins going higher, you hit the nail on the head earlier when you were discussing the fact that the administration change and what that means for the space. If we think about it as speculators for capital in this market has been very limited from the VC standpoint and the business development standpoint, especially in the Western world, especially in the US, because of Gary Gensler and the regulation by enforcement. If that is going to change, I expect that there's a huge amount of money that is wanted to speculate or push into this market for business development, that in some sense you could argue that there's going to be a higher likely than previous months, previous years, of flood of capital into, I don't want to say catching up, but getting out this business development, which will be pumping a lot of liquidity into the altcoin sector going into 2025, into 2026, post January 20th. So it's super exciting times right now. And that's why when we look at charts like this and we realize that, where we're at comparatively with previous cycles, this is just about the time that parabola starts. I mean, look at this. Already had kicked off in 2020 up into this point. And look, it's starting to kick off again. Same thing we saw here, starting to kick off right into the end of this. And this obviously is the leading sort of risk metric for the entire crypto ecosystem. So even if you don't hold Bitcoin because you're a complete degen, following and understanding what Bitcoin's doing on a cycle basis, each term allows you to see that when risk comes in, there's a little hesitation on alts, and then alts absolutely fly. So if that's going to be the case and new capital's basically going to be freed up from coming in, I think it's going to be very exciting. And we need to take very, very strong look at what different projects that we are really allocating into right now, because we see that allocation and the speculation is so low in performance on altcoins right now I think 2025 is going to be absolutely life-changing for people out there. So I got to ask you, we talked about Bitcoin. We talked a little about Solana. Everybody thought Cardano was dead, but now Cardano had a little bit of rippage to the upside. Are you following Cardano at all? I know also you're looking at Fetch, but now Fetch is actually bleeding while other things are performing well. What sort of other narratives are you looking at right now?
If we look at Cardano, for example, I think I've discussed this on the show, and I basically said the same thing, that it started way back. This was November 2020 for Cardano. And it's doing it once again. This is when Cardano started to move up. And I would expect it to continue up. I think it'll probably get to these all-time highs. I would think. Uh, it's just everything across the board is just playing out identically uh, from last cycle. There's no major difference really. So with that expectation at this point for a lot of the alts, like you mentioned, FET, um, things can pop almost immediately. We've seen coins. There was a coin last week actually, Drift, uh, and I had discussed it on my Patreon, but I never actually entered myself. Um, Ended up going up, I think 900% in a day. And this is a coin listed on Coinbase, and it was already listed on Coinbase for months. But it's something like you could be bearish on a coin for a while, or the coin might not look good, but then all it will take is one. It could just take one day or one weekly candle, and then it just changes everything for the coin. Like if I were to look at FET specifically, right? Let me close this up. Go to FET right here. Let me go to the weekly time frame. During this period back here, like everything was running, right? This was back in January. So at this point, there were so many coins running from December to January, and FET. So this basically from December to February, actually. FET wasn't really doing much, and then what happened? It went from 50 cents all the way to $3 within a few weeks. So like a lot of people probably sold their FET into other coins because FET wasn't doing much. But then from there, it just completely went vertical. So that can happen really with any coin. If I were to pull up that drift chart, actually, let me just show you. Drift. So drift, I had discussed it with my Patreons around this time frame, I believe, but I was waiting to see.
Look at that beautiful falling, broadening wedge too. It's almost like it was saying, "Hey, we're getting ready to launch."
But this, yeah, but this was, I mean, if you look at this from this low, this was in 5 days. It went up 675%, essentially. So my whole point is, yeah, I think actually 8x or 7x, right? That would be 7x. I don't know, but it's a little bit more on the, it's like one more, like if an 8x is like 700%, right? I believe. Regardless, you could be in a coin, and then let's say you were in this coin for the past few weeks. It was doing nothing. It was bleeding out, and then it just makes back all the gains or all the losses within a few days. Just look at Doge, for example. Just Doge, same exact thing, where Doge basically went down for so long, and it's basically made back most of its downside within a few days. This is on the weekly time frame. So this was just in the last month, starting at the end of this is the start of October or middle of October. It's basically made back the majority of the losses it's had within a few weeks. So that things can really change, and like with the alts too, especially like we saw. Just think about a week ago on election night or the Monday before. Since then, most alts popped, I believe, at least 50%. Like pretty much every alt from that low went up around 50%. And that was not even, that was with dominance not really even going down yet or anything like that. Once when dominance starts to go down, you're going to see a lot more of that. You're going to see probably 50% moves very fast, 100% moves very fast. It's definitely going to be an interesting time, and I think it's just right on schedule, really. Right, this was December of 2020. We're almost in December. We kind of broke out a little bit earlier, like a month earlier compared to last cycle. This is November, obviously. Last time it was December, but I think it's just right on time. I think this will eventually break down, and then a lot of alts will start to fly. And like you said, with the stuff with the SEC, we haven't. Essentially with the SEC and everything, a lot of the building of crypto stuff kind of got halted just because of everything the SEC did. But I think we'll start to see companies bigger companies start to, look into crypto stuff. Some of them have, but it hasn't been as much as we saw back in 2021. I think we'll see big companies, Microsoft, Apple, uh, the bigger ones start to say that they're looking into or they're working with certain coins. I know, like I think Render, for example, is tied up with Apple. There was coins with Google. I know Chainlink last cycle was working with Google. You would see that more often, but it never. I don't think it really ever like fabricated into anything. But it was an earlier time. But I think you'll start to see more of that. But really, we haven't seen any of that in like the last year or so. It's just been nothing as far as or companies working with certain cryptos and whatnot. But I think that all changes. I think this whole landscape is going to do a 180. It's been held down and held back, and I think it's just going to change really fast. And it already really has. If you just think about where we were 2 weeks ago, sentiment was really low in general. People didn't know, and obviously with the election, people were very nervous what the future held. But now, 2 weeks later, I think a lot of people see the light finally and can see that we're probably going to have better days ahead. So it's a good time. It's a really good time if you're in crypto right now.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're up $27,000 from when we had this little retest on the trend line that we had mapped out all the way back here since March 13th. Okay, came tested. Oh no, launched, no, tested, and this was the spring. Boom, up 40%. 40% since back here when some people were saying this was the top. It just blows my mind when you look at the cycles over the last three different cycles. I was screaming from the rooftops here on the channel that the likelihood of this going up was far and away way more than not. And we're seeing that play out right now. Now, do we have a potential to come back and potentially wash out? Yeah, we do. We're going to hedge ourselves, take advantage of these if this does happen. But there's also a very strong likelihood this just chops sideways in this range, alts run a little bit, and then this just breaks out. So, it's so exciting. Well, you did mention Render. So let's pull up Render and see what you're looking at on Render.
Let's see. Render USD.
I don't know if you guys can hear it, but they got music playing in the office. Little bubbles playing in the background, talking about Bitcoin pumping. So I'm just like,
I don't really hear it too much. So Render, right? Render's another example, right? Just a few days ago, even down here, it was below $5 just 5 days ago, and alts. This was on Friday, so alts were already at this point pumping for a few days, and Render was still kind of relatively low. And then from there, it went from $5 all the way up to $7.20. So it went up 50% really fast. If you look at Render, right, this just looks like a clear double bottom pattern right here. Bottom, break of the neckline. So this is going to probably go higher. Maybe it comes back down to retest this neckline. I think it did actually last night. But yeah, I think Render, all these coins, I mean, really I think the bigger thing would be to not to chase. If your coin hasn't pumped much, or you see other coins pumping like you see today, like Pepe going up, WIF going up, Doge has been going up. If you see other coins pumping, I think the best thing to do is be patient for the most part. I wouldn't chase too much. I think at some point most of these coins will go unless you're holding something that's like super low cap that's not really listed anywhere. If it's listed on Coinbase, I think it's probably it'll more than likely have its day at some point. So I think it's just really just patience now and just being patient. Because often what happens is people will, and I've done this before, and everyone has done this. You see something else chasing, your coin's not doing much. You get angsty about it, and then you end up selling your coin into that other coin that you chased or that was up a lot, and then from there that coin starts to slowly go down.
Yeah.
And then the coin you sold is slowly, you look the next day and you're like, oh, that coin I just sold is up 10%, and now this coin's down 10%. So damn, that's a 20% difference. And then it just slowly gets worse and worse, and then you're like, oh crap, I messed that one up if I just held. So usually when you for whatever reason, whenever you sell or give up on something, then it usually pumps after. And you're not the only one, because that's why it's going down, because other people are giving up. But it could also be because of leverage too. Sometimes, like on these pullbacks, like the one we saw yesterday, some coins pulled back a little, some coins pulled back more. It could just be because there was a lot more leverage longs in that specific coin. So that means there was a lot of people confident about that coin, but it also led to more leverage. So when the coin went down, all those people got liquidated, so it went down more, and then it usually will bounce back harder and then be on its way. It's just the same typical thing. We've seen it over and over.
Yeah, well, I don't typically pull up a lot of meme coins on this channel, but we got to give some love to Peanut, man. Peanut the squirrel. Peanut rips has been, I mean, it's up over $1 billion market cap now. Have you looked at Peanut? Let's pull up Peanut.
No, I've seen it, but it only got, I think, made like a few weeks ago. I don't know if there's going to be much price history. I know Binance just listed it, so Binance's chart is only going to be a day old.
We might have to look at it on the 15-minute chart or something. Holy moly, that is just golly.
You know what's crazy too? I saw something. What was it? This was November 3rd. So Peanut died.
It was probably right when Peanut got assassinated by New York State.
But Peanut, that was on like the Friday before the election or the Saturday.
Yeah.
So I know, I remember reading somewhere someone put I think $1,000 in it, and he was already up at this point right here $1 million. And then from there, this was when it was 15 cents. Now it's $1.73. So I don't know if that person held or not, but if they did, they're almost at over $10 million off a $1,000 investment.
On Peanut the squirrel.
Yeah.
Insane. Oh God, this market is so exciting. We've been waiting on this for years. Yeah. Holy moly. What else? Should we look at anything else to wrap this out the last 5 minutes or so? Let's see. BNB. Have you looked at BNB lately?
I have. I think, let me see, BNB USD. I think BNB's consolidating up here. Let me go to the 3-day. It's been consolidating at these highs. I think this will eventually break out. This looks like kind of like an inverse head and shoulders, maybe you could say. But yeah, I think this will eventually break out to the upside and then continue higher. So it's pretty much the same. If you look at Solana, same thing. Solana this is kind of breaking out of this consolidation range that's been in. So Solana probably wants to resume higher. Let's see what else. We looked at ADA, looked at Drift. We could look at SUI, I guess. We'll see what we've mentioned SUI in the past, SUI USD. This obviously broke higher too, so this is in a blue sky breakout.
And it's right there at that 1.618.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So if it gets through this really at 320, it probably would want to get to 490, probably 490 next. So we'll see if it can clear that. And we look at Bitcoin one last time. That was my drawing too. That actually ended up playing out pretty accurately. That was pretty cool. Drew this way back in August, followed that path up. Let's see.
Oh, it's that exciting time for the next 12 months. Don't mess this up, everybody. This is the most exciting part. In fact, we finally actually got the all-time high, meaning Bitcoin breaking out and adjusted for inflation over here against some M1 money supply, finally breaking through that zone. I mean, God, everything is it's feeling, I'm still cautious about this, but I have a feeling we might leave, even if we dip down into it, I feel like we're going to leave a good portion of this CME gap behind. But, Titan of crypto, we've been watching this for some time. We've broken out. I will still pay attention for a little bit of a move down at some point, whether it's sub $100,000 or once we get above 100 and we use 100 as a base. But
was there CME gap back in 2020? If you can go back to 2020.
There was, and it didn't get filled until we had the bear market crash a couple years later. So
yeah,
it doesn't have to be filled right now, especially with all this front running bullishness. I mean, let's think about this. We have the U.S. government that has a bill on the floor to buy 200,000 Bitcoin a year for the next 5 years. We have the 42 billion from MicroStrategy, the 16 billion from FTX getting redistributed. The setup right now is something that we could not have, it would have been a laughing stock 5 years ago to mention that this is where we would be in coming into the end of 2024.
Yeah, it's insane. I really didn't think that all this would happen probably until like 2030 or years away. And now we're pretty much there's almost nothing left. Almost like I don't really know what else. Like the stage is really set at this point. The max potential of like fundamental catalysts with the ETF and now the US adding it to the reserves. Like really the only thing left would be that that bill where the US starts buying Bitcoin. After that, there's nothing. I just don't think there'll ever be even like a bigger catalyst. So that pretty much leaves Bitcoin in a position where it can just go into price discovery and find out what its appropriate price essentially is, which is probably up near the market cap of where gold is at least, which would mean another 5x or so at some point. Maybe not like in this cycle, but at some point in the future. I mean, markets have to still market, even if something should be worth $1 million. Let's say Bitcoin should be worth $1 million. It just can't go straight there because there's going to be people taking profits, selling.
I can't believe this. The 24-hour period, Peanut the Squirrel, Pepe, Bonk, Dog with Hat, Floki, Dogecoin, Mogcoin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The top 7 performers are all meme coins. This is going to be an interesting cycle for sure because, just the way capital's flow, this is just so exciting. When we look at the liquidity charts, a little bit, I do think we could get a little bit of a reset here in the next 24 hours. Maybe testing the top side of this range, 89, 90,000, somewhere in this range. But this is so exciting. And we've been here sharing charts, even in the bear market. I want you all to pay attention to all the people that pop up now because Matthew and I can tell you, he and I, we've been sharing charts and jumping on podcasts together for 2-3 years now. Regardless of what the price action is doing, you're going to see a lot of LARPers coming out that you got to really pay attention to where you're getting your information from. Don't just get it from me. Don't just get it from Matthew. Make sure you're following people like our other homie, Kevin Svensson, Discover Crypto. There's a lot of different places, but make sure you're doing your diligence because this is not the time to mess up what's going on. But Matt, I think we'll wrap out there. I know we could talk for another few hours, but make sure everybody that you come over here and follow Matthew Hyland _. And then of course, make sure you follow me here at Kelly Kellam or at Academy BitLab. We go live here every day here on BitLab Academy, but is there anything else you wanted to wrap this out with before we go?
No, that's pretty much it. Just be patient. We're turning a corner clearly, so just be patient. Don't chase too much. That's my best advice. And definitely look to take profits when you're up like 3x, 4x, 5x. Take profits. Absolutely. I agree with that. Now, again, everybody, thank you all so much for tuning in. If this is your first time watching, make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure, remember, we do a giveaway every week. So if you are tuned in, remember, you can participate in this. All you got to do is on this live stream here on Twitter, come over here and hit that retweet, hit that like button. We do a drawing every Monday. Big love to each and every one of you. We got the links down here if you want to join our traders group. If you want to get our NordVPN, 4 months free, nordvpn.com/BitLab. And then, of course, I've extended the BitLab deal, which is that link right here, lab.bitlabacademy.com/deal. Take advantage of that while you can. Again, Matthew, thank you for being here. We're going to be diving into the charts all day. Everybody that is a member, keep your eyes open. Make sure you're paying attention here on BitLab. When you're watching right here, you can come over here on the page. Make sure you hit that notification. But here on posts, you will see a link in here later. I might post it open to everybody for about the first 2 minutes. And if you see that, then you can hop in there. But become a BitLab member. I love you, buddy. Thank you for being here. And hey, man, we got to let this ride, baby. Yeah, this is the start of it. So let's go. Let's go. Adios, everybody. I'll see you in the next one. We'll see you over on Blockchain Basement. Let's go.